Hi Sharks, this is Mr. Patrick, and I'll be reading My Teacher Has Tattoos by Darren Lopez and Bhagya Madana Singh. Making my way to my desk, I try to hide my smile. For the first time in my life, I have a male teacher. Mr. Mendoza is talking about last night's pro baseball game. When he rolls up his sleeves, I see a mark. A tattoo? I think. No way. School teachers can't have tattoos. Tattoos are for people who have been in jail, Xavier, my mom would whisper when we walked past the baseball field. Some tattooed guys hang out there in the afternoons. Don't look, they're probably in a dangerous gang, mijo, she says when we're out of earshot. Mr. Mendoza hasn't been in jail. I am sure of it. Mr. Mendoza is an intense teacher. He is from New York, just like me. He's a big Yankees fan, just like me. He's my teacher and baseball coach this year. Our pickup baseball team is almost complete. We just need one more player. He's hard of hearing, and sometimes he gets grumpy if he doesn't drink his coffee, but I'm sure he isn't in a gang. Between us Yankees fans, Mr. Mendoza will tell me if he has tattoos, right? Hey, do you have any tattoos? I ask while leaning in, because my mom said, Hey, Xavier, you hit the ball well yesterday, but you seem nervous in the outfield. I know we're down a player, but is something else on your mind? It's those guys that hang out near the fence. They scare me a little bit, I admit. Did they say something to you? Mr. Mendoza responds quickly. My mom says they have been in jail or are in a bad gang because they have tattoos. Oh, interesting, Mr. Mendoza remarks in a sad tone. A week later, my mom and I walk past the same tattooed guys on the corner. I stare at them this time. I want to see their tattoos. Do they look like Mr. Mendoza's? Are they in the same gang? Mom shakes her head and we keep walking. I squeeze her hand. When we get to the end of the block, we sprint to the school. I was out of breath when I ran into my classroom. Mr. Mendoza rushes over. What happened? Are you okay, Xavier? They're in a gang. They've been to jail, I blurt out. What? Who is in a gang, and how do you know that? Asked Mr. Mendoza. The bad guys by the fence. They have tattoos, I shout as I point towards the baseball field. Mr. Mendoza sits on his desk. Did you know that not every New Yorker is a Yankees fan? I'm from New York and I'm a Yankees fan, exclaims Jocelyn. Yes, but that stereotype isn't always true, adds Mr. Mendoza. Some New Yorkers don't like the Yankees. Maybe there are other things you believed that turned out to be false. What are some things you believed to be true but turned out to be false? I thought my teacher this year would be a woman, but you are not. And I thought history class would be boring, but your class isn't. I thought teachers couldn't have tattoos, but you... Mr. Mendoza sighs and rolls up his left sleeve. Does this make me a bad person? No, you're our teacher, Sierra yells with a big smile on her face. Akeem shouts, You're silly and sometimes nice. Bezawit says in a snarky tone, You yell too much. And the whole room laughs. I finally see what I thought I saw earlier, a mask tattoo. I bought this mask on the island of Bali in Indonesia, where the people are of the Hindu faith, shares Mr. Mendoza shyly. The mask is a representation of Saraswati, the Hindu goddess of education, which inspires me as a teacher. It says here, Saraswati, the Hindu goddess of knowledge, education, creativity, and music. Who are these three faces, I ask while getting a closer look. They're a representation of my ancestors who are Taino, African, and Spanish, Mr. Mendoza replies confidently. I went deep into the jungles of Borneo to get this traditional hand-tapped tattoo by the Iban people of the south. Mr. Mendoza shares excitedly while revealing his arm. This bungai terung or eggplant Borneo flower represents the lifelong journey for knowledge and wisdom. Tattoos are important for many cultures, Mr. Mendoza remarks. They have been adapted in the Americas as art, but they are a part of a person's journey in life. But in my country, people with bad tattoos do bad things, chimes in Jocelyn. Yeah, in my neighborhood too, adds DeAndre. Sometimes people that do bad things use tattoos to identify that they are part of a group, Mr. Mendoza shares. But many people get tattoos to express important things in their lives. In some cultures, tattoos show the person's rank. Sometimes tattoos are for protection or represent a person's beliefs. I knew it. Mr. Mendoza had tattoos, brags Carlos. But he isn't like the guys my mom worries about, I chime in. Hey, can I play? Jocelyn pleads. Carl snorts and says, You can't hit the ball, you play soccer. I toss her the bat, ignoring Carlos. Jocelyn takes a swing and crack! She hits the ball so far it takes Carlos 5 minutes to get it. Jocelyn and I are still laughing when Carlos makes his way back. That's why we don't stereotype. We just found our last baseball teammate. The author's notes say this book was inspired by a real event during my first year as a teacher in Washington, D.C. I was new to the city and was learning the ways of Central American immigrant culture, which was very prominent in my school building and neighborhood. I always wore long sleeves to cover up my tattoos because living in Puerto Rico, they weren't seen as professional. In my new D.C. neighborhood, tattoos were seen as a sign of gang affiliation or having been in jail, which caught me by surprise. The local gangs were easily identified by their tattoos, so when teachers and students found out I had tattoos, it was a big deal. I wrote this book to help end the stigma surrounding tattoos, especially in schools. Tattoos can be an expression of art, for some a deep cultural connection. Tattoos can tell a story. Tattoos teach about an individual or spark curiosity about the world. They can positively show a person's journey rather than negatively show an immediate connection to crimes or gangs. The end.